the Collective Experience, and I'm excited because I have another interview for you guys this week. I've got Mike Kurz, one of the big supporters of the program. Now, you've probably seen this guy's logo around on AJ Catanzaro's Straight Rhythm bike, Tyler Bowers' bike, the SGB guys. Mike, welcome. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I'm excited about this one, man. We're going to talk about some really cool stuff.
Yes, hello, Dave. It's been a great last year, and man, some of the highlights. You drove right past the Red Bull event with AJ Catanzaro. That was a highlight of 2019. That was fantastic, right?
Yeah, right.
And, sometimes I still go and watch his launch into outer space.
I think that's one moment that's going to live in motocross infamy forever. I don't think we're ever going to get away from it.
Yeah, and he did it perfectly. There's no other way to do it. He wrote it out perfectly. I'm super excited to be here. You've done a great job with the Collective Experience, and we love being a part of the effort. And it's going to be a fun 2021.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited for the new season and seeing what else AJ Catanzaro can do. That's just out of this world. But like I said before, people have probably seen your logo and really not know it. And I'm talking about is Mike is the owner of Overshare Advice and Planning. You're probably wondering, okay, what the heck is that? What I like about it, it's something that I think is super important. It's your financial planning business, which, like I said off air, I think so many people need more of when it comes to, finding ways to fund ourselves and save and do things the right way. All too often, just like we saw with the departure of two major staples in the motocross community, Geico Honda, JGR, both folded up shop for this exact same thing. So I'm happy to get you on. Yeah. Mike, just briefly, I don't want to get too far into it. How'd you get into the whole financial planning game, and how do you kind of see that benefiting a lot of us motocross racers?
Yeah, great question. So I fell in love with investments in kind of junior high school age, and realized wow, what a huge impact. And it was a little bit, in my world, it was a little bit like motocross in the sense of this is not easy to do. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. And oh, by the way, you may work your whole life to become an expert. And so I was really drawn to that side of it, and went to school for investments and started out as an advisor 20 years ago. Most of my career has been coaching other advisors.
Yeah.
So I've done about 1 million airline miles, and I've added it up 1,200 nights in hotels, all traveling around the country, around the world, visiting with financial advisors, hedge fund managers, private equity managers all across the country. And then 2 years ago, left the corporate world to launch Overshare Advice and Planning, and have loved it. And Overshare is an interesting name. It's a little bit odd and a little weird, but we love that. Catches your attention. And for us, Overshare is all about full disclosure, right? It's all about working with an advisor and working with a team that is going to put it all out there, be open with you, be trusting with you, and be able to give you the good and bad. We feel sometimes that sometimes in the marketplace, sometimes people undershare a bit. So we want to give you all the things to help you make great decisions. So we have a lot of fun.
Oh, 100%. And the cool thing about you guys is that you guys are big supporters and fans of Supercross and motocross. So makes it even better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool when you have somebody who knows that world so well, but is also into the same sport, same lifestyle that you're also into. It builds that sense of trust within the certain community, you know what I mean? Which I appreciate, especially being relatively new to the working world last 5 years, kind of getting into it, kind of adulting a little bit, if you will, and kind of navigating that whole world for me being, kind of fresh out of school and figuring out, okay, what do I do with my adult paychecks now? It's not, I can't pull on mom and dad to get me gas money to go to the track on the weekends. It's like, how do I make sure that I'm putting money in the right place, so that I'm saving, so I'm not, SOL if I have an emergency, but also I still want to enjoy myself and go ride and do what makes me happy. So, all of this is, it's new to like myself, a lot of other people, and I'm glad we get a chance to talk about this. Let's kind of get into it a little bit. So why is financial planning so important, and especially why is it so important for people in our industry and our sport?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that you jumped right in and got to the heart of the question, right? Why is it important? Why do most people not do it? And why do we need more people to do it? I think really the first part of financial planning really should be life planning, which is to say, Dave, if you've got something you want to accomplish that's really important to you, how do we make sure that can happen?
Yeah.
And that it's 100% likelihood that it can happen versus maybe a wing and a prayer, right? Maybe you wake up on a Saturday and you hope to go riding versus for a fact you're going to be at the track. And I think with financial planning in the moto world, there are a lot of risks, right? There's a lot of unexpected futures, right? There's a lot of things that you want to have happen, but it not necessarily are going to happen without a ton of preparation, a ton of planning. And that's not just on the track. When the gate drops, that's off of the track, right? So if you're thinking, if you're that 10, 11, 12-year-old rider who's thinking about the future, it's not much different than that 16, 17-year-old rider's thinking about the future, which is not much different than the 25, 26-year-old rider that's thinking about, where's their career path after moto? Where's their career path? Do they want to be part of the industry? Do they want to take advantage of their connections and work in the industry? What does that look like? What kind of money can they earn versus what do they want to accomplish? And at the end of the day, really, Dave, about financial planning, it's all about what makes you happy. And can you live this life in a way that you love, right? That you wake up every day and go, this is what I get to do today, and I'm super thrilled to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad you touched on that because, like I said, I mean, I want to make sure I'm good for the future, but also still enjoy riding. I mean, we don't do a cheap sport. Everyone knows that. Anyone that's ridden, I'm sure we've heard our parents complain about how much we cost them and going to the track and getting bikes and tires and gear. So I think this is super important because, I mean, I want to get this message out to as many people as I can to make sure that we all can stay in the sport. I'm really getting bummed on hearing about my buddies like, hey man, I had to get out of the racing. It's just too expensive. I've had all these things I didn't plan for. And it's like, that shouldn't be the case. We should tackle this head on. And like you said, set up a plan so that we can wake up every morning going, hey, I get a chance to do X, Y, Z, and I get a chance to ride my bike because I've been planning so well. Another thing you mentioned is it's similar between like really no matter like what age you're at really, whether you're like you said, the 11, 16, 25. So there really, to me, it seems like there's really no age limit in terms of how early you can start or how late you can start. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think of that young 10, 11, 12-year-old rider who's imagining that future, or maybe they're on the cusp of something big, right? They may be already getting sponsorships. They may be already winning from manufacturers, from product support. It's important to get your financial house in order so that you don't wake up 5 years later and realize, hey, I should have been paying income tax on this income the last 5 years. Now I'm getting audited. Just because you're a minor doesn't mean that you won't get audited or that you won't get audited when you're 18. The IRS can look back 3 years, and if they find stuff they don't like, they can typically go back another 6. And that's a real life thing that's happened. And so, I know a lot of times we're thinking, hey, it's prize money or it's fun money, or I turned 16 and I'm getting, I've only made, $20,000, $30,000 this year, but we spent 70.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't need to file an income tax return. With those kind of things are the kind of planning that you have to start early. Be prepared for that. You don't want to wake up at 20 and realize that you have $15,000, $20,000 of back taxes with penalties and interest that you haven't paid. And those are tiny things that folks can start doing now to make sure they get things in order. And the bigger things are, if you're earning some compensation as a rider, how do you save that? Do you need to put that back for a retirement account, for an IRA or a Roth IRA that, it's for much later, but it's building that nest egg. And the sooner that you start, that tiny nest egg has a chance to grow. So starting at 30 is very different than starting when you're 16, 17, 18, right? And that's a huge advantage. It's just like, imagine if you could have the gate drop, your gate drop 2 seconds before the rest of the field. Do that for me. That's what it means if you start saving at 18 versus 25 or 25 versus 30.
Yeah, agreed. You touched on something that I think is a world of unknown for a lot of people, and that's like the whole tax talk. And I know, like myself, there's probably 80% of people listening to this have all kind of gotten like, hey, we did some local race and got $20, or we have our contingency from Cowie. What's a good first few steps that like we can take to make sure that we are setting ourselves up good? Is that looking at taxes? Is that like documentation? Is that you know, putting money aside and a certain amount of it? Like what are some of these steps that we can take?
Oh yeah. Whew. I mean, you just hit on several great things. Documentation, keeping records. The world that we live in now, so much is digital.
Yep.
So you don't have to have a huge file cabinet. Take a picture and save it on your phone. Save it in a file, email yourself, and have an email folder so that you can have all those things ready, because you can document when you get ready. There are simple things that you can do through things like online websites that or apps that will follow your bank account and your credit card, so you can track your spending, so you can get an idea for that. Using a simple notes in your phone, where you can take a note and keep a track of what you're spending on it each time you go racing. All those kind of things are super important. But you're absolutely right. If you're earning some compensation, if you're getting those monies, find a way to capture a portion of it, right? Find a way to keep a portion of it, because now, you know, Dave, you talked about being out from under the parents' household and being on your own. Yep. You realize how quickly it disappears, right? You're making good money, and all of a sudden it's like, I feel like I have less money as an adult as I did when I was a kid. Right?
Exactly.
I got less disposable income.
Yeah, I have had conversations where like I got like my first check for my job, and I'm like, where's the money going? Like 2 days after I start paying, like, you know, groceries and rent and blah blah blah, it's like I had more money flagging when I was 15. Like, oh my gosh, what happened? You know?
That burden of running a household, right? Right, running a whole household, paying for your own transportation, paying for, you know, now suddenly you're, you know, it's $20 to get into the track, and it's 30, 40, $50 to ride. Well, maybe I'm just doing one class instead of 3, right? Right.
Because dad's not paying for it. Exactly. Is there like a certain amount that you recommend people try to put away, you know, for each money that they get, whether that's like their check or contingency from the races or something? Like what's that figure look like for most people?
Oh yeah. So you need to start in that kind of 5% range, right? So that 3, 4, 5% range. So imagine, you know, easy math, right? If you made $1,000, what's 5%? Can you do that math in your head, Dave? Are you a math guy?
I try to be.
Right. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you don't save that $50, now it's gone.
Exactly.
Right. And if you do that 3 or 4 or 5 times, now you got a few $100 squirreled away. But working to that 10, 15%, maybe even 20% of your income allows you to have much more flexibility in what you want to do in the future. So if that 16, 17, 18-year-old racer who's now making a little bit of living, where they're saying, well, I'm putting everything back in, maybe we want to put almost everything back into racing, right? Maybe we want to put almost everything and keep just a little. And so that maybe smooths out the bumps. Maybe that prepares you for an injury. Maybe that allows you to have better choices. Having $0 is never a good position to be in, right? Because you have no choices. Even if it's just a little bit, allows you to be in that position. But that starting out in that, if you get to that 5%, that's a easy first step, working towards 10, 15. And then if you think of that lifetime of accumulating, most folks who want to retire at 55, 60, 65, if you have your expenses in line with your income, if you save in that 10, 15, 20% range, and you do decent with your savings as far as, managing it well, you're going to have a good nest egg to retire in the lifestyle that you've been living.
That is the goal. Make sure I can retire and still have a decent amount so I can still do my riding. So that's definitely key. When it does come to us, say like we are starting to save and we're growing that little nest egg, we're putting away the 5, 6, 7% from every check or every amount of money that we get. When do you recommend it's time to start looking at like investing, whether that's like in stock or something else, like you said, like I wouldn't really call 401k or IRA like really investing or anything, but like when's a good time to start looking at that stuff? Like, I hear all my buddies are like, hey, I just bought like some Apple stock because it dropped. Like, is there like a time when it's like, hey, now is a good time to start looking, or hey, you don't really have enough in your savings to kind of cover emergencies, let's not start that quite yet.
That's such a tough decision. You hit it right on the head, right? You have so many different things you're trying to balance. I want to buy new things. Maybe it's a new dirt bike, it's a new helmet, it's new gear, or go on a new dirt bike trip or do other things, combined with what you just said. I got car payments and truck payments and debt maybe that we're paying for. And then now I'm saving a little bit. How do I then decide what to do? And I think the great thing with the world that we live in is you can start building really well put together portfolios at $50, $100 a month. So that allows someone a very easy access to diversified portfolios. You know, companies like Vanguard do a great job of making it super easily accessible at small amounts. You can set up your accounts online. You can call an 800 number. You can get a lot of help, and you can go straight from your bank account, that $50 or $100 a month, in a very diversified, well-positioned portfolio where you don't have to say, to your point, well, what stock am I buying today?
Yeah.
Right. What do I have no idea where to go? I heard my friends talk about this stock, so I'm buying this. I heard this on the news, right? Which is more delicate, right, than some people are ready for. But that allows you to start building some kind of long-term investments that also aren't, you know, like setting on top of dynamite where it may work out well for you or it may not. And if it doesn't work out, it's really bad. That's easy to get started. I think the combination there is if you can be in a place where your spending's in line, so you're not spending too much and keeping those credit card, you know, debt and those purchases away from you. That's the biggest thing we see with folks that haven't had a chance to save and invest, is the expenses are too high. And when we look at it, a lot of times they're expenses we chose to make, right? We say, well, my car payment's too much. Well, maybe the $50,000 car was stretching and you should have bought the $25,000 car. Yeah. Right. And well, but my friends really expect me to buy the $50,000 car. It takes better Instagram pictures. It's better TikTok videos. I have better chance to get a better date with a better car. Like, I get it. Right. All those things are part of life. Everybody has those pressures. But those are the tough choices where if you can make those tough choices, you can wake up one day and say, now I can make the easy choice, right? The easy choice is, now I've got a good nest egg. I got some good savings. Now I can make some fun choices.
Exactly. No, I'm glad you touched on that point. That's definitely a place that I want to get to. So you mentioned it a little bit, like people who are, you know, in debt, like there's a lot of us, myself included, who come out with like student loan debt from school and stuff like that. Is there like a cool general rule or a good way to start, I guess, saving in the right places, or maybe a way to start paying off things early while still be able to maintain some of the things that we enjoy?
Yes. Yeah. The very simple thing, it starts with spending less than you make. And that sounds simple, but a lot of people, if you fast forward 5-10 years, that have $20,000 in debt, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 in credit card debt, that's what happened, right? We were spending more than we make, or we were choosing expenses for certain areas that were way out of our league, right? Again, that $50,000 car that should have been 25. Well, then maybe your credit card, your expenses aren't that bad at the grocery store, but since you're spending so much elsewhere, it makes it rough. So what we look at, number one, is spend less than you make. And to your point earlier, when you said you got that first check, you said, okay, here's the check, here's what they take, and somebody else takes, and then more. And I get the smallest number on the page is my number that I see now on my app and my checking account. That number, then you got to say, I have to be able to live with this and only spend this. That's the very first step. Then that second step is saying, okay, I can live on what I make. Now can I live a little less, so I can allocate a little bit to, you know, an emergency fund. You know, I can build up maybe $1,000 or $2,000 in just a regular bank savings account, and then have that kind of as my cushion if I need a little extra, or if I want to do something special, or if the car breaks or I get in an accident, or in the moto world, got a concussion or broke a leg. Right. You know, that it's for all of us that are probably watching or listening to this, right? we've all had injuries, and those injuries, no matter what the severity, $1,000, $2,000 goes pretty quick at the doctor's office, right?
Yes. 100%. I totally agree. I think that's pretty attainable. I hope for a lot of us to be able to sit down, document, and try to spend less than we make, kind of maybe even budget, say, hey, you know what, we can't go out to eat this week, or hey, we can only go out to eat once a month because we're putting the extra $50 towards XYZ. And I've heard a bunch of people, even in my family, that have done that. And then you look up 2 years later, they're like, yeah, we paid off the car 4 years early from doing stuff like that. And it's like, holy crap, you don't realize how, you start putting the building blocks, and pretty soon you have a whole tower that can knock down all of the debt for you. So that's definitely something I need to be a little bit better with. I will I will admit. When we start to focus in on like motocrossers, people in action sports, or the price to your action sports, what are some common mistakes that you see a lot of us make when it comes to trying to save or trying to avoid going too far into debt?
Yeah, great idea to think about digging into that. So, dealing with your savings and long-term investing, you might have to look at it a little differently than a gate dropping and pinning it, right? So you have to think of a little bit longer term, be comfortable with a little bit longer expectations. Sometimes we talk about planting that tree in the front yard and say, today it's a baby tree, tomorrow we want it to be a mighty oak. Well, it's going to take a few years, right? Building a good portfolio and building a good nest egg where you save $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, you can do that, and you can do that one small step at a time. But it does take a lot of patience, and it does mean that you don't take too much risk. We do a risk survey with our clients that scores them on from 1 to 99. And it's very interesting, Dave, that when we bring new clients into the firm, we'll have them do a risk assessment and get their risk number. And then we'll put their portfolio, what their old advisor has, and put their portfolio into the system. And we've seen risk scores where the client is a 25 and their portfolio is a 70.
Ooh.
So what's that saying, right? That's a big difference, right? It's saying I'm comfortable hitting that jump second gear, half throttle, but my portfolio's full throttle fourth gear.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think building portfolios that match that, having patience, right? Being able to take a deep breath and see that those strategies are built for, maybe a little bit different than a motocrosser would typically think of their risk appetite, right?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And that kind of ties it all nicely together for us. Like, essentially making sure that us as motocross racers, again, common theme is that we continue to keep doing the sport that we all love. And that's, again, putting the 5%, around 5% away, making sure we have our emergency fund built up quite nicely. And then once we do feel like we're in a comfortable spot, starting to find good places to put our money so that it grows for us and starts working for us. And I think that's smart. And guys, again, if you want to start doing this stuff, please check out the guys at Overshare Advice and Planning. Mike is a wealth of knowledge. And not only that, but he speaks our language. He speaks Moto. So it doesn't get much better than that. Mike, you get into some pretty cool stuff with the nonprofit too, with the FinLit prep stuff. Like what's that all about?
Yeah. So we realize that, financial literacy, right? Just like literacy, learning how to speak the language, learning how to speak the financial language is something that, we live in the greatest country on earth, I believe, but that is a weakness in our world, that when you go from kindergarten through 12th grade, you don't get a lot of financial literacy education, right? There's not a ton that teaches you about not just how to build a budget, but how to stick to a budget. Right. The most important thing about having a budget is being able to say no, because there's so many wonderful things to buy. There's so many fantastic places to go, and Amazon and Best Buy are so easy, right? They don't teach you those things. So we launched a nonprofit all with the idea of how do we give back to the community? How do we share our education all in financial literacy? So we started finlitprep.org, which is a website that helps share our message. And we're all with trying to do more presentations. We've done several for the local community college. It's called Calling College here in North Texas, that are posted on our YouTube channel, that are on our website, that deal with building your resume or learning how to do salary negotiation, all with cool stuff. Just how do we give more free stuff to make it easy access. There's a few links on there for for young folks too that we've posted for teachers. So elementary school teachers, middle school teachers. So if you've got a middle school kid, you can go through there and see what we're sharing with our teachers that you can get access to. It's all free stuff. So it's a great resource.
Yeah, I definitely could have used the salary negotiation part a couple years ago. I'm not gonna lie, that would have been a huge help. No, that's so awesome that you're thinking about people, getting them access to stuff like this. Because I agree with you. I think I would have loved to have a class like early high school about this is what taxes are for. This is how they work. This is how you take them out. This is how you, like you said, make a budget and stick to it. That would have been so much easier than having to, blow all this money trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, and, not being smart with it, being a dumb kid, So what you guys are doing is it's definitely awesome. One of the probably most important question of this whole interview, who are you rooting for next season, man? I mean, 21's got a lot of key players in both classes. Who's the number one guy you're looking to say he's gonna have the championship at the end of the season?
Oh man, I will tell you, I don't know that I could. Probably, I'm the biggest fan of Ken Roczen. Right, I'm just such a huge fan, and this was, I would say, this has grown over the years, but to see the strength that it takes to overcome the obstacles that he has.
Yes.
I mean, it's a rare thing, not just in our sport, around the world. It's a rare thing to have hit the battles and the obstacles that he has and to come out on the other side. Definitely. The amount of emotional intelligence and emotional strength that it takes just to say, I'm just walking away with this. I'm going to go do something else. Because certainly the guy has talent. He can make a living doing a lot of things. Yeah. So I'm certainly rooting for Roczen in the 450 class. I'd love to see him be this year to earn a championship. And it's going to be tough. I mean, what do we got? 10, 11, 12 guys that could win a main event?
Easily. And at least 8 of those guys can put together a good season enough to where they can win a title. So my fantasy Supercross is going to be completely ridiculous. I know I'm going to have a lot of sad weekends where I'm just wanting to pull my hair out because I'm like, there's so many people right now. But, no, I agree. I think Roczen's going to have a great year, and it's going to be very exciting. I do think, and I probably say this every year, this is probably going to be one of the best years in terms of competition for our sport. And hopefully with that, we see some growth. Mike, this has been awesome. This has opened my eyes a little bit. I hope it did the same for our viewers out there, at least some really cool first steps they can take. And if they want some more, if they want to find out, a little bit more deeper, in-depth look at their finances, how to start saving, where can they find you, Mike?
Yeah, great question. So finletprep.org is our nonprofit website. And I've got an email there if you're saying, hey, I just need some free advice. I'm looking for some ideas, or I'm talking with my child about this and I want to be able to have a quick conversation. I'd be happy to jump on a phone call. We love technology. So everything we do now, of course, is all easily do virtual. We have encrypted file sharing, and all of our assets and services are all very internet secure. So we love being able to have meetings just like this phone call.
Oh, that's so awesome. Making it easier for us to connect. Greatly appreciate that. Guys, be sure to check these guys out. Mike, salt of the earth person, super humble, really wants to help the industry. And I think it's great. If you want some more stuff like this, guys, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Mike, I appreciate the time, man. We are going to talk very soon, and let's hope that you and I can see Roczen at the top step of the podium come the end race in Utah.
I'll be cheering for him. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.